Well guys, it is starting to finally slow down here on the ranch, and starting to cool down as well, so that is nice, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable to be here in the shop. So as you can see here, we have the FireBird up on the lift. For those of you who are new to the channel, this is my father-in-law's FireBird. He bought it when he was 16 and he's always wanted to restore it, and now is the time that it can finally happen for him, so we're all pretty pumped. So he is actually the second owner of this car. And then as you see over here, we have a Blueprint LS3 motor with a T56 transmission that's going to be going into it. This dynoed at 530, so that will be a big increase from like the 180 horsepower that this came with. But today we're going to be throwing the car on this Eastwood rotisserie that we got. It's getting a little harder for my father-in-law to move around and get up and down, so what we're going to be doing is taking the fuel tank and the rear subframe, the rear axle out of here, and throwing it on the rotisserie. That way he can work on it and be able to turn it completely and all that. That way he's not having to get underneath it, and it'll just make things a lot easier for him. So that is the plan. I think should be pretty easy to do. These rotisseries I think I'll be able to just mount it to the original front subframe mount here, and then on the back I'll be probably making an adapter so that we can mount it to the leaf spring mount here. But I'll have to be building those most likely. But I guess first thing first is to drop this tank and then take out the axle and leaf springs, and then we can see where we're at. Well, I think I have everything undone. You saw I pulled the fuel tank sitting up there, and then the struts are undone, and then the leaf springs are unbolted. So I think in theory, and the brake line, don't forget the brake line. So I think in theory this should come out. So I guess all we can do is raise it up while watching and see what happens. Ooh, I already see right now. We have to undo the e-brake. Dang it. Alright guys, so we finally got the rear end out. That turned into a much bigger pain than it should have been. Like I said, these e-brake lines were connected to the axle steels, so I had to go take those off, and I ended up just completely taking apart the drums and then pulling the lines through, because we're not going to be using those brakes, or I don't think we're using that axle, so it don't matter. So now, to the whole point we're taking this thing apart is to get it on this rotisserie. If you don't know what a rotisserie is, it is just like a food rotisserie. It makes it so you can turn this and you can rotate the car 360 degrees, so you can work at it in any angle from an easy position. So what we're doing here is, here we have the original shackles that are off of the leaf springs here. I'm going to reuse those because we're not going to have leaf springs anymore, so we don't need them. So I'm going to be welding these 1x2 square tubing to these like this, and then you see it hangs down enough that it clears the bumper. And then here I found this 3-inch square tubing that slides onto the mounts here like so, and then this will be of course welded onto the end here, and that is how I am attaching the rear. So I need to do that on both sides, and then we can move on to the front. All right, we have both of them done. I have one sitting on here so you can kind of get a visual of what it looks like on there, and then I also hung one up here so that you can get a visual of how it is on here as well. As you can see, it slides into there, and then I'll probably just make a hole on the top here that I can put that bolt, and that will secure it. And then those should be fairly, and then those should work just fine. So have those made. Need to drill the holes, and then we can mount them. Then we can put the front on, and we can see if this is actually going to work. But we will have to do that on Monday. I'm tired, hungry, and it's time to go see the family. So I will hit this up on Monday, and we should be able to finish it then. All right, guys, we are back here in the shop. Got this one all mounted up, drilled a hole. It is very secure, so that'll work out perfect. So now I need to just drill a hole in this one, and then we can lower the car and see if these are going to work. All right, I have the brackets on here. So now we will lower her down and bolt it on. All right, she's all bolted on, sturdy. I think it'll work good. Now we just need to figure out the front end, which hopefully isn't too bad. Well, guys, the car is upside down. A little nerve-wracking, not gonna lie. Seems to be doing good. It was pretty easy to rotate up until like the last little bit, so that tells us that it's not completely balanced yet. So I'm gonna flip it around and raise the car up, because you want the balance point to be in obviously the axis of the rotation points. And so since it's not easy to rotate all the way around, that means it's not perfectly balanced. But no, I guess it is upside down, so obviously it's working. You can see there now how those are bolted on. Then these brackets, I had to add these pieces here to weld on, because when I started lifting it, which makes sense, it started rotating off of that leaf spring point, and then it was just kind of just sagging down instead of lifting. And so I welded these on, which goes in parallel with the frame rail here, which that way it keeps them from rotating, and that seemed to do the trick. But yeah, I guess it works. Like I said, it's a little nerve-wracking flipping a car upside down, especially one that has this nice a body, because if it drops, then that would really suck. So I'm gonna flip it back around and see if we can balance it better. Well guys, she is officially on the rotisserie. Now it doesn't rotate as smooth as I would like it, which I tried raising it, but then it was top heavy. So then I put it back down and now it's hard to get up around, and so I don't know if it needs to be somewhere in between, but you're kind of limited with the spacing of these bolt holes. And so I just don't know how much more adjustment there can be with it. But I guess it'll work for what we need it to. He just wants to be able to work on the bottom of the car, and he wants to redo the headliner, so I'll flip it upside down. That way he can stand right up and be able to work on the headliner there. So I think it'll work for what we need it to. And this probably isn't the best rotisserie out there. Like I said, it's an Eastwood and it works. It would probably help if the car was maybe fully gutted and it was just a shell. Supposedly this is a 3,000 pound lift, and I know for a fact this isn't 300 or 3,000 pounds, so I don't think anything's wrong there. But I think it'll work for what we need it to, and if it doesn't, I guess we'll adjust it. But I think it'll do the job. It'll just make it easier for him to work on. That's all he needs. So, but I think this is where I'm going to end this one. Next thing, we just need to wait for the chassis to come, and we have no idea when that's going to be. And then we can drop the body into the chassis, drop the engine on the chassis, do some wiring, and it should be ready to go. So it will be pretty cool in that aspect. In that aspect, that'll be a lot of plug and play, which is always nice. But there's a lot to do on the car before the chassis even gets here, so my father-in-law Don can just tinker away at that as he has the time, and then I'm sure I'll be helping along the way. So thank you guys for watching, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.